Next time on The Troubles.
The Bogside, Derry, August 1969. Tear gas is used for the first time in the United Kingdom as law and order collapses in Northern Ireland. Catholics, in a minority of 1 to 2 in the province, had finally rebelled against a Protestant state that had exploited and neglected them. Londonderry, second city of Northern Ireland. Two generations of teenagers have confronted the army during the years of the current troubles. Scenes of stone-throwing youths are familiar enough in Derry to attract only mild interest from bystanders. In the early 70s, confrontations like these were regular enough to become known as the Saturday matinee. This riot in the Catholic area, known as the Bogside, followed the Protestant Apprentice Boys' March in August 1980 and was unremarkable enough to go unreported. The Apprentice Boys' March is usually followed by a Catholic riot. In 1969, it lasted 3 days and is remembered as the Battle of the Bogside. It was the climax of the Troubles that year and led directly to the intervention of the British government and army. The Bogside, Derry, August 1969. Tear gas is used for the first time in the United Kingdom as law and order collapses in Northern Ireland. Catholics, in a minority of 1 to 2 in the province, had finally rebelled against a Protestant state that had exploited and neglected them. For 3 days and nights, Catholics in the Bogside kept the Protestant police at bay. On the third night, rioting spread across the province, bringing it to the precipice of civil war. In the ghettos of Belfast, the position of the Catholics was particularly serious. Under attack by Protestants, Catholic streets were burnt virtually to the ground, and it seemed possible that there might be a pogrom. 8 people died that night, and hundreds were injured as the police lost control. The morning saw Catholics fleeing the sectarian divide, and after the rioting had subsided, 1,500 Catholics and 300 Protestants had lost their homes. Peace had been restored by the presence of the British Army. It was only the day before that the British government had decided reluctantly that troops would have to be used in Northern Ireland to hold the warring factions apart, assist the exhausted police force, prevent further loss of life, and protect property. Ministers were aware of the problems of committing the army to the streets of the province, but the alternative was civil war. In the eerie calm that now descended on the province, both politicians and soldiers knew that it was going to be easier to send the troops in than to get them out. Now the British government and its army were inextricably caught up in Northern Ireland and its future. The people of Belfast, particularly the Catholics, welcomed the army. They brought an end to the burnings and killings. But armies are not constabularies, and soldiers are not policemen, nor are they a substitute for cogent political policies. No one knew this better than the army.
Two, please, sir.
The honeymoon period cannot, I do not think, continue forever, obviously. We're perhaps at the peak now, where everybody's smiling and swapping cups of tea and all this sort of business and cracking jokes. But unless there is a solution or some hope for the future, and this is where the politicians have got to come in, the soldiers are not going to be welcomed on the streets for forever and ever.
The Home Secretary, James Callaghan, visited the troubled province on the 27th of August, 1969. For 45 years, British politicians had ignored Northern Ireland. It was the business of a Home Office department which also regulated London taxicabs and British summertime. No senior civil servant in Whitehall had worked full-time on Northern Ireland.
Well, you must have got thousands of pictures of us by now. And we're not as handsome as all that. If we were Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor, come on.
Yes, we're interested.
In Derry's Bogside, Callaghan was greeted by enthusiastic crowds. John Hume, a moderate Catholic politician, also welcomed him.
On behalf of the people who are, in my view, the living symbols of injustice in Northern Ireland, I welcome you here because you will find in this area the worst housing and the highest unemployment and the heaviest immigration, and I hope you're bringing the solution with you.
Sir, this is Mr. Cooper, too.
I'm very glad to come. Very glad indeed to be here and to see everybody, and I want to be able to see everybody.
Please hold back,
Already the British government had announced that the B specials would be phased out, and Callaghan's civil servants were reviewing discrimination in housing and jobs. Caught in the crowd, he was forced to address the Bogsiders from an upstairs window.
I was told yesterday that I was welcome because I am neutral. I replied, I am not neutral. I am on the side of those, whoever they may be, and in whatever community they live, who are deprived of justice and of freedom. In Belfast, the army would soon be confronted with the complexity of Ulster street politics. In the August fighting, both Protestants and Catholics had protected their districts by building barricades. The politicians ordered the army to pull them down and erect an official barrier, a peace line to keep the two communities apart. Both sides were suspicious, but they reluctantly agreed. Leader of the Protestant Shankill Defence Association, John McCaig.
The idea is here, take this barricade down now, and we'll conform with the government's plan that we give them time to get their plans implemented into the other side. Now, if they don't take action into the Bogside and into the Falls Road area of Belfast, this and the Short Strand, these barricades will go up higher on Monday morning.
Meanwhile, across the city, the army was having difficulty in Dover Street, one half of which was Catholic, the other Protestant.
We've had a hold-up for some reason, they're just saying about it now.
Hey, he wants up.
Yes. Who's saying hold?
General Freeland saw for himself the subtleties of the sectarian geography of Belfast.
What's it, materials or,
No, sir, we don't.
or exactly where to put it?